So we got invited to a press screening of Never Let Go, and outside of there, they were taking these little pictures and handing them out, and you get a little rope and you tie it around yourself, and they got a little background, so that was cute. These little promotional things they do outside of these press screenings are always, you know, interesting and fun. So this is an Alexander Aja film, and it stars Halle Berry. And it is about a woman and her 2 children who live in this house in the middle of nowhere. And there's this evil that lives out in the woods. And they have a rope, 3 ropes, that they tie around themselves to go, you know, forage, go look for food, go do whatever. And they have to keep the rope tied to them.
Yes. Because
the rope's tied to the house. And the house has some kind of, I don't know, magical
spell.
Yeah, something that allows the evil not to interfere with them.
Yeah. But
if you're to let go of the rope, the evil can infect you and make you kill the people around you.
Yes.
So, okay. I was mostly interested to see this because it's an Alexander Aja film. Who, you know, I don't even know if I'm saying his name correctly, but that's how I've always pronounced it. You know, with him making stuff like High Tension back in the day, and then, of course, the Hills Have Eyes remake, and most recently Crawl, which I'm a huge fan of. He has his hits and he has his misses, for sure. But he's an interesting director that sometimes throws out awesome films that are wildly entertaining, like Piranha 3D or something like that. It was just fun film. So I was very curious when his name was attached, and with it being Halle Berry, I found that a very weird matchup of them. But as far as the film goes, I'm pretty in the middle on it. It's a very gimmicky movie. The drama works well, because you have a dramatic actress and you have these 2 kids who are giving good performances.
Really good performances.
In the drama sphere. But weirdly, with Alexander doing the direction, I would think that the horror would be stronger, and I felt all of that to be very cliche and uninspired. Pretty much none of the horror worked for me, and in a horror movie, that's gonna be a tough sell to look past the horror elements. Everything else would have to be super strong for me to come away from this being like, I loved it, even though the horror didn't work. I don't think I've ever said that. So that was a problem, because it definitely is reminiscent of a ton of films. I mean, I could name tons of films that this felt like it was inspired from, like A Quiet Place. And we had mentioned quite a few while we were watching it after.
Yeah.
Where we were just like, oh yeah, I'm like, there's this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. It just feels like an amalgamation of a bunch of gimmick movies from the past. And while the performances are good, you just are left with, you know, a horror movie that doesn't really land in the horror department. So that was a shame.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little higher on it than you are, because I had a really good time with it. I really enjoyed the performances from everybody. I really liked the location and the setting. I thought that was really cool. And you know, the horror, I agree with you. I think it is kind of cliche and maybe even like predictable at times, but I was fine with it. I felt like there's a few shots that I quite enjoyed how they looked. I thought they were pretty creepy looking. And I do like, you know, the overall like message of the movie and like what it's talking about in terms of mental health. My biggest complaint, which we talked about on our drive home, is that I think that I'm not sure how the ending leaves things off, because I feel like a lot of the film can be interpreted like one of two, like you can go either way with like, is it real or is it like in their heads or whatever, but then there's something that happens at the end that I feel like does answer it, and I don't like it because it's like the only thing that throws off that like the ambiguous nature of the film. And I think that if it had left in a more ambiguous way, that for me would have been better, because it does continue to have the, you know, ability to just like, you know, open discussion about what it all was. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I think one of the last images that we see does take away the ambiguity that is the film's strong suit, for further discussion after the fact. And, you know, we had talked about the entire film up until that point being like, yeah, you could go either way with it the whole time. And I couldn't really explain away this one element.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess you could argue something, maybe, if you really want to, but it feels pretty definitive to me. And it's definitely there, because it's something that's set up earlier in the film, and then once it's done and revealed, it's like, no, we're purposely telling you the answer.
Right.
And it's like, that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So I think that was a miscalculation on the film's part. I wish they would have left that aspect out. It didn't really add anything to the film. Although, you know, to be fair, we are people who like ambiguity.
Yes.
As to where a lot of audiences do not. And they're very much like, I want a definitive answer to the, you know, the questions that I'll have in the end. Like, and they feel like it's lazy writing if there is any ambiguity. They want it all 100% answered. So I guess for like more casual mainstream audiences, maybe that ending is better for them and it will land better for them. But for people like us who are like, no, this, I don't want it in every movie. Don't get me wrong.
No, definitely not.
Movies like this,
yeah,
the ambiguity is what what helps it so much.
Yes, yeah.
The other thing that it reminded me of very heavily was the TV show From, which comes back on Sunday.
Yeah, we're really excited for that.
Next Sunday.
Yeah, I think overall, I don't know, I think I'm bad at predicting this kind of thing, but I would expect this to be land pretty well with most mainstream audiences. I don't think that there's no like risks taken. It's a very kind of cut and dry, like cliche horror movie, as we've said, in a lot of ways.
It's going to be a very mid film for people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it though. I thought it was good. I really did.
It's not bad.
I don't think it's bad at all. It's funny because we saw another movie the night before that we were both like so in love with.
Oh my god. I mean, so to compare the two is insane.
It is kind of, I think, unfortunate to like go into it after that experience, because it, you know, things just pale in comparison, I feel, after you see a movie that just really blows you away. But despite that, I still enjoyed it. I still had a good time. I think if you're a fan of the TV show From, if you like this director, I think it's worth checking out. The soundtrack is also really good. The music in this, I thought,
the music by
really,
Rob,
really good.
He did the music for Maniac, the remake, and yeah, I agree. The music from him is always fantastic. But I don't know. I think that I think people will be fairly
underwhelmed.
Like, no, just mid. Like the fun. Okay, I'm gonna call Kaylee out a little bit right here, because I'm an asshole like that. But we talked about this in the car on the ride home, and during that, she was like, "I think I'm higher on it than you," and we kind of kept going back and forth. And I was like, on Letterboxd, I'd give this a 3.5. Like, what would you give it? And she said a 3.5. So
I think
she's totally full of it.
That, like, I
think your 3.5 is different than my 3.5.
Maybe.
Like, my 3.5 is like, it's good. It's a good movie. I quite enjoyed it.
No, I
like,
think
a 3
is
completely middle of the road. I have nothing really positive or negative to say about it. This, I have a lot of positives to say about it. Like, I think that it does very well. Like, the kid actors are great.
They're fantastic.
Right?
I don't know.
I think there's a great... Actually, no movie this reminds me of a lot from this year, but it is a different film, but it has a lot of similarities, is Arcadian.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's that like parent with 2 children.
In fact,
trying
it's very
to, like,
similar
survive.
now that I'm thinking about it because of the brothers' rivalry with each other and everything.
I think 3.5 on Letterboxd is like a totally valid rating for this. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just like trying to defend it more, but I think you're right. We both have good things to say, and there's definitely things that could have been improved on and that we didn't like a ton, but I don't know. It was an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
It's a fun, like, one-time watch. That's, I guess, how I feel, too. You know? Like, one time, check it out.
Yeah, if you're really into gimmicky horror films and you like kind of like basic, cheap jump scare type setups, and a lot of really good dramatic acting, the one thing that of course pisses you off as it does a lot of horror fans is that the film is primarily children, and we kind of all know what that means in American cinema.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of the tension out of the movie for me. But the film kept me guessing, because I'll say this. When I went into it, I leaned over to Kaylee and I was like, okay, this is what's happening. Then, like, they started to play that a little too heavy, where they were, like, trying to sway you in a direction. So this is, like, the new trick that a lot of filmmakers try to do. They try to trick their intelligent audience by, like, giving them just enough to make them think they've got it figured out. And then they're like, I got this figured out. I know what's happening. Like, I've seen this kind of movie before. And then to pull the rug out from under them in the last, like, 30 minutes and then them go, oh, whoa, it's the opposite, right? But, like, we as an audience, we adapt and we become more intelligent. And we learn those tricks.
Yeah. And
so, like, now you'd have to do that, but then not do it, but then do it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, you know, this film does kind of go all over the place with that, so I'll give it that credit. But I was like, oh, they're doing this. And then I was like, wait, they're alluding to that they're doing this way too much to try to trick me into thinking I got it figured out. So it's going to really be this. And, yeah, that's exactly what ended up happening. But regardless, yeah, that's it. Anyway, enough rambling. Never let go. Yeah, I don't know. If you're, like, really dying to see this, I think it's worth a watch in the theater. If you're somebody that's on the fence about it, I'd wait for VOD. That's how I feel. You?
That's fair.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you in the comments. Bye.
Bye.